They say the best swords have names. Any ideas?
Oathkeeper.
Welcome to the Game of Thrones Iron Podcast, Season 4, Episode 4, Oathkeeper. I'm here with Rose Snow, bitch of Westeros, and I'm Mike Sand, and we're here to talk Game of Thrones.
Well, Mike, I have to say, I think the show has been fantastic. I think that it has not let us down yet in this season, not that it ever has before. Again, the only show that I watch at all during the week, and in my opinion is the best show on television right now, and it has been for a while. So much going on, so many different people coming into play here, new characters, old characters, and just, so many places and so many things going on that it's almost hard to keep up. A lot of cliffhangers. So for me, it's been really, I really had to stay on my game to keep all this, absorbing all this that they've given us in the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, a lot of information coming at you really fast. And it's so much that we have trouble nailing down a couple of topics. And it's just so much. Let's get right to it. Let's just start knocking these out.
Right. Well, we weren't sure what to talk about first, but I'm going to go with what the show opened with, and that was Greyworm. Greyworm's character has unfolded for us. We have seen this unsullied robot. He was conformed into this untouchable soldier, castrated, and we just didn't know what was going to come of this guy. And now we see him turning more into a person. We see emotion. We see him learning to speak. His fondness of Dany, his role in freeing the slaves of Meereen, which was fantastic for me. It was 2 emotional parts in the show. That was definitely one of them. He comes in basically leading the charge to free the slaves of Meereen. They feeling hopeless and helpless, and he's now basically answered every question that they had. We know that they're all carrying satchels. I guess we don't think much of it. And then sure enough, they're all carrying weapons. And that was fantastic. It was definitely a great role for Greyworm to play. We don't see Daario anywhere in this episode. So I don't know if they are really just giving Greyworm this whole center stage, or perhaps, they're making us wait with Daario, maybe spoon-feeding us for his role here.
I agree with the first thing you said. I think this was Greyworm's episode, and he was great. I like the scene with him and Melisandre. It's close to Melisandre, but the translator for Dany. And I think he even saw he tried to even touch her hand and she pulled away. I don't know what that was about, but I like how Greyworm is reaching out, trying to make connections. Things that he never had. He was just this soldier that couldn't even talk to anybody. Wasn't allowed to even move if the masters didn't tell him. And now he's becoming a person.
Well, Mike, she's pulled away because Greyworm has been castrated.
Don't you think that would work out?
Obviously not.
Come on, it's the best boyfriend in the world. Never bother you for sex, nothing.
If he didn't talk, then maybe.
So you want him no that and no tongue.
Basically. Sounds
right.
About right.
Well, the other thing about Meereen I wanted to mention was the decision to nail the masters to the basically crucifix things, the posts. I thought that was great because I thought for a second maybe Dany would back out when Barristan was talking to him and said, the right thing to do here is to show mercy. And she said, screw that. I'm gonna make sure I come through on my promise. I'm gonna teach them a lesson for all those kids that were nailed to the stake. I personally agree with the decision. I know they say, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind and everything like that, but, there is limits. I mean, these people did that horrible thing. Think about those children. It's got to be...
Which we know now to be 176.
100, yeah.
Basically crucified and left to die.
If anybody deserves the death penalty, it's them. But at the same time, you could see Dany getting more ruthless, but I think it's a good thing for her. If she wants to conquer Westeros eventually, she's going to need to have a little bit of that in her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about, it's a 2-parter. It's about Jaime. It's Jaime and Bran. I love this scene with them two. They're fighting, and then Bran actually takes his hand off of him and slaps him in his own face with his hand, his new golden hand, and teaches Jaime the lesson that, expect the unexpected. Don't always have to fight honorably. Like the knight that he always was trained to fight. And if Jaime lost one of his hands, it's probably a good idea to start fighting dirty. And I think that's what Bran's trying to teach him here. And I love those two together. I think it's great. I always want to see more of that. And then you also get the reveal that Jaime didn't know that Tyrion actually chose him to be his champion at the Vale first. So Bronn explained that to him because he's trying to say, Tyrion looks to you. You're his brother. He looks up to you. He knows you'll be there for him. Are you going to be there for him now?
I feel that Jaime is perhaps stuck in a web between Tyrion and Cersei and probably just doesn't know which way to sway. It's probably got to be somewhat difficult for him, but, we do see that, Bronn's little pep talk does work.
Yeah, it gets him in there and then they have the talk. So, so then you got Jaime and Tyrion talking and, really funny scene. Tyrion says the Kingslayer brothers, which was hilarious. And then they're talking about it. And then basically Tyrion's saying, man, you got to break me out of here. There's no way I'm getting through this unless you guys break me out of it, unless you break me out of this place. And Jaime says, no, I'm not going to do it. So, at least, well, it looks like he's kind of saying no.
Right.
But, they're going back and forth with them with the understanding of the situation, which is not looking too good for Tyrion.
All right. Well, the next thing that I had thought was certainly prominent to me was the scene between Sansa and Littlefinger on the way to the Vale. He then presents to her that he's on his way to the Vale, which in my mind is the closest thing to home now that Winterfell has been up in smoke. For me, I'm surprised to see Littlefinger behind this whole thing, which was a little bit of a twist in the story. We knew that the Tyrells were involved, but now we see that Littlefinger is the mastermind, which is great, and I love that. I was definitely surprised to see Sansa's stance with Littlefinger, where she's actually questioning him and somewhat reluctant to be grateful that he killed Joffrey, being that Joffrey was the man who not only bragged and boasted about it, but in fact beheaded her father. And we see all this venom from her, all these shows and all these episodes that are going by. And now that Joffrey's been killed, she doesn't seem to be relieved. And that to me was definitely a trivial moment. We also see that she's on her way to the Vale, which again means to me that Arya's also on her way to the Vale with the Hound. So perhaps a reunion in the future.
Yeah, I'm going to take a different point of view on the Sansa thing. I'm going to say that Sansa is learning to question things. She's finally not the gullible girl anymore. She's learning that, hey, Lynn, everybody in this world has a hidden agenda. What's their angle? And I think back, actually, there was a conversation between Shay, your favorite character, Ro,
yes,
and Sansa. And Sansa's like, well, what's wrong with Littlefinger? He just wants to help me out. And he's too old. And Shay says, men don't see it that way. And, there's always something. So, she's learning, like, I don't know. This looks too good to be true. It probably isn't. And tell you the truth, I think Sansa's on the right path. I think Littlefinger's got something up his sleeve. If Sansa's just another pawn in his game, whatever the case may be. But I think something is behind that a little bit.
No, she already was a pawn in his game. She was the one that was wearing the poison. And we have to keep in mind that Littlefinger did go back to get her. He didn't have to. But, for me, I thought the scene was fantastic. And it was definitely, a little unexpected, but what can you say? We'll see what unfolds.
Okay, I'm going to see if I pronounce this right, Ro. Lady Olenna?
That's right.
All right. Because I do pronounce things sometimes. Lady Olenna is the one who
means he does mispronounce things sometimes.
Right. The grammar Nazi strikes again. Lady Olenna is the one who did the poisoning. So we got a 3-part thing here. We got Dantos puts the necklace on Sansa. Lady Lyanna takes the poison off of the necklace. And they don't show how it gets in the cup, but now we know it definitely wasn't Marjorie. I originally thought Marjorie had something to do with it because her hand was around it. Confirmed that's not the case. So looks like this was a big power play for Lyanna.
Right, we got the train going. We have Dantos, we have Sansa wearing the poison.
Littlefinger giving it to Dantos.
Unsuspectingly.
Right.
We know that Lady Olenna was in on it, and then we of course know Littlefinger was the mastermind. So who is key player number 5? How did it get in Joffrey's mouth?
I don't know if they'll ever show it. I hope they do, because it's still bothering me.
It's the type of thing that we all want to know.
I just got to see how it got in there, because that's where I was questioning it. But I just wanted to mention real quick, just something to think about, how the throne changed hands from the Targaryens, who had it for many years, and now they've been rapidly changing hands. And you see, Robert took it by force, Robert went in there and he, basically slammed the Targaryen prince with a warhammer and took it by force, which is the normal way, right, to win a throne. But then you see the Lannisters took it by cheating out Rob of his own children by actually having an incestual relationship with Jaime and Cersei. And that took the Lannisters into power. And now the Tyrells are taking the Lannisters out by this poisoning. And now I believe the Tyrells are now going to be the main royal family. And it's amazing how they came out of nowhere, just helping out in the Battle of Blackwater, to now being the royal family. The only real member of the Lannisters is going to be Tommen, who is... I have a very strong feeling that Marjorie is going to be able to manipulate Tommen. And... because it's just like, the age difference, and she's so smart. She's so smart, Marjorie,
Well, the Tyrells are manipulators. We've seen that.
Right. I mean, you still got Tywin, of course, big Lannister present. You still got Cersei, who's a little batshit crazy, but she's there. But the Tyrells are serious now. Like, with Joffrey out of the way, Tommen is the main obstacle. I think that's really interesting.
The Tyrells are also full aware that the Lannister boys are not Baratheons. They're Lannister bloodline. So I think that there's a lot of in play with everybody feeling that these kids aren't even entitled to the throne. And the Tyrells are full aware of that. So, the next thing that I'm going to discuss is Brienne of Tarth and Jaime Lannister. We have the scene where, Jaime pulls her into private and he reveals to her that he is handing off his brand new Valyrian steel sword, which is a fantastic scene. He then unveils her blue armor, which was stunning, and who more deserving than Brienne? We've seen ice, which belonged to Ned Stark, be melted down into two swords, and we're thinking, what a snub. But in my mind, it was a little bit of a relief to see it go to somebody who is so honorable, such as Brienne of Tarth. And we all know that Catelyn Stark also was quite fond of her and quite trusting of her. I had mentioned earlier that there was two emotional scenes in this episode, and it was definitely number 2 for me was when she names her Valyrian steel sword Oathkeeper. And that oath was to Catelyn Stark. So what a beautiful moment for me as such a diehard, Stark fan. Rose Snow is my name for that reason. Adding Podrick to the mix is once again become the comic relief for the third time. We've seen him in the brothel. We've seen him save Tyrion in Blackwater Bay. And now we see Podrick playing, sidekick to Brienne of Tarth, which is really going to be an interesting part of this story. I'm looking forward to it. Another thing that I see Podrick as capable. He seems to have a little bit of a warrior in him. So I'm sure that we're going to see some interesting scenes coming up with these.
Apparently, he has a lot of tricks in the bedroom too. Don't forget, he got a free brothel ride, and that doesn't happen too often in King's Landing.
Right, the brothels don't usually give your money back.
No, and can you name 2 more awkward characters than those two, and they're together? Right. Think about that. Pretty hilarious. All right, so I'm going to go to the Lannisters with Cersei and Jaime. The controversial scene from last week's episode of the raping. And I put that in air quotes, raping. I originally felt like there was a little bit of Cersei giving into that sexual scene from last week. And I was always kind of a little like, I mean, was it rape, was it not? And, after reading all the things online, people putting Rape of Thrones and, because it is a big change from the books because it was consensual in the books. It wasn't this rape thing. Then I kind of bought into it. But now you see next week, they don't even mention it. It's not even like an item. They're pretty much the way they were acting before this scene happened, where Cersei's being cold and Jaime's, basically kind of like, lover scorned kind of thing. So I don't know. What do you think about that, Ro?
I have to say that for me, as a woman watching that scene, I never at any point felt that Jaime was forcefully, violently raping Cersei. The one thing that was definitely prominent in my mind was the fact that Joffrey was laying there dead, awkward. But in the same breath, I saw what to me was called the path of least resistance. I didn't see a rape there. I think that's a very strongly used word. And I also have to mention that we do, in fact, see 50 women raped in this show. And I have yet to see that strewn across the internet. So it just doesn't seem to make any sense that to even call this Rape of Thrones. This scene was what it was meant to be. Jaime views Cersei as his wife. I see passion, but I don't see rape.
Yeah, me too. I don't know. It seems like that got blew out of proportion, but I do see what they're saying. There was a little bit of that forcefulness, like you said, Ro, but I don't know about the rape thing, so maybe that'll put that to bed. I know a lot of people talking about that. And then the other thing was also Tommen and Marjorie. Marjorie taking the grandmother's advice and trying to get a little quiet time with Tommen, sneaking in there, and he definitely she made that he had a smile on his face. He definitely made her night.
Yeah, he definitely raised an eyebrow when he saw it was Marjorie walking in there.
Yeah, so I like how she said, like, we'll have secrets that your mother won't know about, and trying to drive that wedge between Tommen and Cersei, which is not an uncommon thing. You saw Tywin doing that last week too. Everybody wants to get Tommen away from Cersei. Obviously, Marjorie's doing it for a different reason. She wants to be the queen, and she don't want to be opposed by Cersei. So I thought that was a cool little scene there.
Right.
So.
Well, going into my next thing was definitely Crasters Keep. That was a what the fuck moment. And I say that because throughout the show, we see Craster, and we see him as this real son of a bitch. He's raping his own daughters. And I don't even know if rape is the word once again. Because, yes, it is rape. It's ancestral rape. But they don't seem to think so. These girls have been raised to think, I am his wife, not his daughter. We've seen these baby after baby popped out. And everybody sees this as the norm. They are little, workers on his little thing he's got going on in this little farm and weird house. And all these weird dynamics. And then the next thing we see is Craster's Keep is now like Rape Central.
Yeah, it's the Rape Shack.
It's the Rape Shack. And it's like, oh my God, as if this couldn't get worse for these girls. We didn't think, oh, could it get worse? Oh, hell yeah, it could get worse. We start off the scene. We've got girls with black eyes. We got a girl being raped on the right. We've got a girl being raped on the left. And then we got this guy talking. And now there's a girl being raped behind him. So it's like, good grief. I didn't think this could get worse for these girls.
Man, somebody makes Cresta look good.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was horrible. But I do like the bad guy. I do like Carl. I thought he was really cool. I liked how he was talking to Lord Mormont's half skull, and he's drinking out of it. It was really, really
absolutely disgusting.
It was this, but I don't know. I thought it was pretty awesome. And it's funny how he took over from that guy with the beard. Which it's kind of like his bitch now, which is funny because he was the one that killed the Lord. Now he's like the bitch, like go get go feed the animal. Which, by the way, was Ghost.
Right, Ghost, and
like you said,
that's one thing that we have to take into play here. Is these guys are men of the Night's Watch. We think all through this show is when you swear an oath to the Night's Watch, it's damn serious. And we are thinking Night's Watch, and when we think Night's Watch, we think of Jon Snow and Samuel Tarly. We don't think of rapists and murderers and killers and thieves and whatever you want to call this, criminology here behind these guys. I don't think any of us expected it to be as bad as it was.
Well, they do say that, of course there's people like Jon Snow that voluntarily join, but this, they clean out the dungeons.
Right.
They say, all right, give me your dungeons, we'll take them to the wall.
It is actually a choice. It's lose your hand for stealing or go to the wall. And that's the choice that they're taking.
Now you're seeing what these people actually are like.
Right. We forget that because we're thinking Night's Watch. We're not thinking that's what's going to unfold.
Yep. And then, another interesting thing that happens at the Crasters Keep is Bran shows up. Awesome. I mean, definitely exciting to see that. I mean, I'm not exactly excited to see Bran. Oh, here I go again with the mispronunciations. Bran, Ro?
That is right.
All
Brandon
right.
Stark.
Brandon.
Let me help you out.
I'm going to just say Brandon. All right, so Brandon Stark is there, and so he wargs into Summer. He gets to see Ghost captured, and then he ends up in there. Really tense scene.
Summer ends up in a ditch, injured, which is very unfortunate. So now we got two direwolves that, once again, we're not used to seeing as, impotent. And now we've got one locked up and one injured in a ditch. Right.
So then, and one of the most heartbreaking scenes, which was Hodor getting stabbed in the leg.
Chained and tormented.
That was horrible.
It's not something we've seen yet in this series.
Yeah.
We've never seen Hodor be mistreated.
I think I was most upset anything, and a lot of crazy shit has happened on this show.
Right.
I was more upset seeing Hodor getting stabbed because he's so, like, just so innocent.
Such a likable character.
Innocent, you know, he's like a baby, you know?
Right.
Horrible. But then again, they were going to stab a baby later on, which we'll talk about. But it's like, you know, these shows what kind of scumbags these guys are. They are just the worst of the worst. And then Bran gives up his name. This is a big deal. Now, a lot of people are starting to know what he's doing. So this was supposed to be a big secret. Now the cat's out the bag. Brandon Stark is there, and other people know that he's there, and now he's a valuable hostage if they don't get saved in time.
They not only know that he's a Stark now, but they now realize this is Jon Snow's brother.
But
right. You know, we've seen with the display of Ghost that they don't give a shit about Jon. They don't care what his story is. Right. But he's on his way there, and I'm curious to see what happens when his ass gets there. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be good.
And speaking of the Night's Watch, we got Locke is now in the Night's Watch. If you remember, Locke was the one sent from Lord Bolton. They were talking about, I think Bolton gave Locke the job to find the Stark boys, and he gave Ramsay the job to go fight the Greyjoys. So this is Locke following up.
Not fight the Greyjoys.
Well, he's going to the Moat Cailin then, and actually that's going to probably be where we see, I can't wait for either, where the Greyjoy sister and him meet.
Well, I'm waiting for Yara to come through.
Yeah.
I've been waiting since this season started.
Hopefully next episode. It seems natural. But
right.
Anyway, so interesting. He infiltrates the Night's Watch, which is a really big move. That's deep cover, man. He's going deep undercover because now he's swearing oaths and you know.
Well, right now he's a recruit. He hasn't sworn oath yet, but when he does, it'll be a whole new ball game.
Right.
Once you swear your oath to the Night's Watch and you break it, it is punishable by death. So that changes the dynamics just a bit.
So he's going to have that holding over his head when eventually, if he does get to finish his mission, he'll have to get out of it that way. But interesting, now we have a character that the audience knows is a bad guy, but the main character doesn't. Jon Snow doesn't. And, you know, it's fun to see that. When is it going to turn and stuff like that? I love that they add that to the show. Again, Locke's a new character. He never was in the books. So it's interesting to see this. He's a wild card. We don't know what's going to happen, and there's a lot of that going on this season. A lot of stuff that nobody knows what's going to happen. Well,
on that note, the same thing that we've had since this show aired in Season 1, Episode 1, is we see these White Walkers. They have always been a mystery to us. All we see is them come and go and linger, you know, just here and there in the woods or when a baby is given up or, you know, Sam's little interjection with them. But we did not know what the story was. What were they doing with these babies? Were they eating the babies? Were they sacrificing the babies? Were they killing the babies? You know, we had no idea what was going on. But now we see in what I felt to be just a beautiful scene is all this cold that transpires, and we see puddles shattering and, you know, them come and get the baby. And, you know, basically take this baby on basically a dead horse through a frozen lake. And one thing that I had felt was quite odd was that we see this baby who is basically disrobed with half of a blanket wrapped around him in weather that has been so cold that it's shattering in frost. And this baby is unscathed by it. I don't know if it's the power of the baby at this point or the power of the White Walkers. And then we see this baby presented on a pedestal to be then turned into a White Walker. By right, that baby should have frozen from hypothermia by the time he got there, and it never happened. So it's been definitely a changing scene. We now know that the White Walkers are building an army out of Crasters kids, and they have been. So what's going to happen with that is very, very tale-telling what's gonna transpire there.
Wow, I mean, it's so amazing to see into the culture of the White Walkers. I mean, think about it. Up to this point, they're just these mindless killing machines that are invincible, and they just look like they're just, you know, like zombies you'd see, you know, in an old zombie movie. But no, they're not. I mean, you go there, and the funny thing was, you see all those people that perform the ritual. They're all dressed in like robes. They're like. They come off as like the leadership of the White Walkers. So, you know, I would guess that these are they're the ones that perform this ritual. Maybe they're the ones that make decisions. And really cool to see that they're actually intelligent. They're a community.
Well, one thing that we did realize, which was basically brought out to us in season 3, is that the White Walkers have been around as long, if not longer, than the Night's Watch, and that's where the dragon glass comes from. Was so many years before. So I mean, we can only imagine how many White Walkers there must be by now. And from what we had mentioned earlier, Crasters been giving up a few babies a year. Right. To these guys. They must have some army going on behind those scenes.
And I just, one last thought I wanted to mention was, going by how George R.R. Martin is, and knowing that every bad guy that we hated in the beginning, ended up we liked them, like Jaime Lannister, great example, or good guys that actually had some bad intentions behind them. What if the White Walkers would be maybe not as bad as we think? I mean, they seem to be... I mean, of course, they just turned a baby into a zombie, so it's kind of hard to get past that. But then again, Jaime Lannister threw a child out a window, and now we're rooting for him all of a sudden. So it would be very Game of Thrones for these White Walkers to maybe not be this evil, mindless race, that there actually might have something more to them. And I'm really excited to learn more about them. I'm really excited to... find out more about their civilization and everything like that.
We're going to see things unfold as the shows go on, but I think that the White Walkers are going to be trickled to us like they have been.
Oh, yeah.
It took us 4 seasons to see what they were even doing.
Right.
So it's I wouldn't be
probably
expecting too much too soon.
We're not going to see them for a while, probably. You're probably right.
Right.
That's all I got, Rob.
That's about it for me.
All right. Great episode. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Bye.